For more on this story, we can go across to France 24's Bénédicte Pavio standing by in London. Bénédicte, this vote finally set to pave the way for Britain to leave.
Indeed, today is a very significant day. And let's be honest, you'd imagine I'd be absolutely surrounded by camera crews. Well, let me tell you, I'm not. And I think it actually reflects very clearly and quite powerfully what has changed in this United Kingdom, which is actually quite disunited, but that's another point altogether. But what has changed is that early general election, mid-December. The fact that Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party have an 80-seat majority, an 87 working seat majority. And so it's quite extraordinary to see. Any amendments, this is the third consecutive day of this examination of the WAB, the Withdrawal Agreement Bill as we call it, and any amendment that has been put forward has been very comfortably defeated, unsurprisingly, by the government, whether it's about EU citizens' rights or families, refugees coming to be reunited with their families, the Erasmus, all those things have been defeated. And yes, later on today, around about 5 p.m. London time, lawmakers here in the lower chamber, in the House of Commons, will approve this revised withdrawal agreement bill, which, let me remind you, has got a new clause in it. And that new clause, since the election, is very much that there will not be a lengthening, an extension of the end of the year possibility of the transition being longer. And that is an option that the UK government could avail itself in June, but very clearly it has said that that should not be a possibility. Indeed, the bill says that that would be illegal. So that's where we are. And let me remind you, this time, 3.5 years after that referendum, we are 22 days away from the 31st of January, 11 p.m. And we'll see how it will be marked. No word yet from the government, despite asking them many times how this will be marked or celebrated, either in London or elsewhere.
Okay, so we know what's going to happen. Well, we don't really have much detail of what is going to happen on the 31st of January. But looking to the future, what happens now, Bénédicte?
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. On the 31st of January at 11 p.m., that will be the divorce, so phase one. And then what happens then on the 1st of February? Well, I've just been speaking to government spokesmen, and they are basically indicating that the United Kingdom is absolutely ready to negotiate from the 1st of February. I think that the EU have other ideas about that. But let me remind you also about that visit that happened in Downing Street yesterday, the first face-to-face meeting of the new EU Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, meeting Boris Johnson. Michel Barnier, the EU Brexit negotiator, was there as well. But basically very positive things, but very firm. And Mrs. von der Leyen does not believe, actually, that this end of December 2020 is actually realistic to have really a done deal. So you've got a divorce negotiated deal that's going to be ratified by the lower chamber, that will go to the upper chamber next week, the House of Lords, that will then be ratified by the EU Parliament, as acknowledged and declared yesterday by Ursula von der Leyen. And yet, we've only got then maybe a matter of, 10 months or less to negotiate that future relationship. And it is clear that both the United Kingdom and now the EU are very much saying there will actually have to be concentration on priorities. But what happens to the areas where there is no agreement? That is the big question and the big unknown.
We'll see what happens, Bénédicte. Thank you very much for that update. Bénédicte Pavio reporting there from outside the House of Commons.